New trend on TikTok in which people are talking about their dissociative identity disorder symptoms or multiple personality disorder symptoms. A lot of people are thinking that these people are faking it, so let's get to it.
A few weeks back, we actually made a very similar video to this in which a real professional licensed doctor talks about the very real pandemic of fakers recently over on TikTok. Now, it's all very well to sit here and listen to me on the internet, but I don't really actually have any legitimacy when it comes to actually saying any of these people are faking. I can kind of just guess my best on personal experience stuff with, say, Tourette's, for example, and let you guys know that they're at least playing up for the camera. But I feel like it's very interesting from time to time to actually sit down together and watch what a real-life doctor has to say about this. There will be a link in the description if you want to watch the video afterwards all in full, but let's hear and listen what he has to say about this weird, wacky trend that has been going on recently over on TikTok.
Kim wrote in and emailed the following and summarizes it pretty well. Would you be willing to talk about the recent trend of people faking dissociative identity disorder on TikTok? DID, or dissociative identity disorder. DID awareness has increased over the past few years, and along with it, there has been a trend developing where people, mostly teenagers, are faking DID on TikTok. A year ago, I believed in DID, but after seeing all these fakers on TikTok and the arguments presented by other psychologists who don't believe it's a real disorder, I'm convinced that they are all faking.
So straight off the back here, I feel like this is already incredibly sad and something that you actually are going to find pretty common. A lot of people really not believing in this type of stuff. And honestly, why would you? When you have someone called Jason, who's 12 years old, who tells you that he has very extreme DID because when he was a kid, he wasn't allowed ketchup on his roast dinner one time. And he's not had it easy growing up. So to cope with that, he now likes to pretend he's his favorite anime character. And while you see stuff like that, I feel like it's actually kind of very common to now get people not to believe in any of this stuff. So you get these types of people really taking away from the people that really need help, because now less doctors out there willing to actually help in the first place.
Or have been brainwashed by the same mechanisms used by harmful psychologists during the Satanic Panic era to implant their patients with memories and experiences. These people on TikTok are pretending that they are people of color. They pretend they are fairies. They pretend they are 1,000-year-old wizards. Additionally, these people on TikTok will use fictives, usually cartoon or anime characters, as part of their other personalities.
I just quickly got to say what you want about the anime characters. They're probably fake, but I gotta be fair, all the wizards are definitely very real. Hell yeah, bro, I'm just saying. If I want to pick and choose who I'm going to fake disorder as, you better believe Gandalf the White. Why would I not alt as Gandalf the White? That would be the sickest thing ever. I feel like some people are just taking their whole roleplay just a little bit too far. If you guys aren't fully up to date on this channel, well, we have some stickers for that. We have some stickers for people that take this way too far. Link in description. Not a cosplay. Yes, guys, I did some very shameless plugging then. And I don't feel guilty whatsoever. He actually brings up some very interesting topics as well. Now, I know that me and Retro Phantom a while ago said that we had this really cool video that we were actually working on together, but while moving and everything, life kind of got in the way. But we're trying to make a really cool documentary style video for you guys about the Satanic Panic, which honestly, if you don't know anything about, it is actually fascinating. And I would highly recommend you guys to Google it after this video and check it out for yourselves. If that's something that you guys would probably still be interested in watching at some point, please let me know in the comments.
Or factives, which are real people. And I feel this is damaging, especially to the real people the factives are based on. Namely, Bo Burnham has many people claiming they literally are him, and when speaking to these people, you must address them as Bo Burnham. A few influencers have already spoken out and asked people to please stop posing as them online. Would you please be willing to speak about this trend?
That has to be like the creepiest thing ever. Imagine just scrolling on TikTok one day, I see someone trying to alt as a Blaze. I ain't gonna be too happy about that. That's gonna be a little bit weird. You're not a Blaze. Please stop. Get some help. Like, that just has to be enough to freak anyone out. Honestly, as soon as there's a new big trend or a TV program that is out, I'm even seeing now people glamorizing Jeffrey Dahmer for some reason and pretending to be him. When it was Moon Knight, I literally facepalmed myself because I knew for a fact having a whole new MCU character based around DID wasn't going to end well. And I said at the beginning of that, you just wait. There's going to be people that are now going to think that they're Moon Knight. Not 2 weeks later, there was a man walking around New York City pretending to be Moon Knight. But Blaze, he was probably just roleplay. No, he made TikTok videos saying whenever he now has DID and he switches to Moon Knight. He said that. The thing, guys, you can pick and choose who you want to be so easily. I can just switch on demand. It's like a superpower. Yes, because mental illnesses are definitely like superpowers.
Yeah, so first off, dissociative identity disorder is real. It is absolutely real. I could talk about all the research. I could have guests on the show, and I have had. I had one guest on the show, and you can listen to it. It was an episode from 2019, and you can find it on our website, and you can also find it on YouTube. It's called "Her Story of Erotic Transference and Dissociative Identity Disorder." It's a wonderful interview, and you really get a sense for dissociative identity disorder in that interview. But I've done other episodes. I've done some deep dives available to oldie patrons. Again, you can go to the website and search for those. And if you become a patron, you get access to those. All the trauma experts and dissociation experts that I know of absolutely will state and find that dissociative identity disorder is real. It isn't something that is completely all faked. Now, having said that, it can be faked, and it has been faked in the past, sometimes famously, like the Sybil, the book and the movie in the 70s, talks about a case, or it was revealed to be a fraud. And it continues to be faked. In fact, one study found that 10% of patients claiming to have DID were indeed faking it.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, really, when you think about it. 10%, especially when you see all the people over on TikTok basically claiming to have DID. But those are the people that have actually gone to the doctors claiming to have it. I can guarantee you that a lot of people on TikTok haven't even tried to take it that far to try and even go there and claim that they have it to an actual doctor. Why would you do that? It's a hell of a lot easier just to sit back on TikTok, watch the views come in and just claim it on there. You don't need any proof. I feel like it's very bad timing for all of this as well. You got, on the one hand, everyone wanting to be suppressed nowadays, and everyone has something wrong with them. No one is treated equally these days, and there's always something that suppresses them as they whine and moan about every single thing, even though they really don't know how good they have it these days. Which goes co in hand with people now trying to fake DID, which is actually one of the symptoms of that is you need a lot of traumatic stress in the first place, so then you alter someone else to really cope with all the trauma that you've experienced maybe as a kid. But the thing is, when you actually look at people switching, no, they can't switch on demand into cool, quirky anime characters like they do on TikTok. I always feel like that was always a little bit of a giveaway that they were faking.
Usually by overdoing their symptoms, it was clear that they were faking it. Usually when people are faking it, they're trying to get out of a crime, they're trying to manipulate people in some way, trying to get attention or something. However, another set of studies have found that it's actually difficult to determine the difference between someone who's faking it and someone who legitimately has DID. So we have to take that into consideration. So regarding whether or not it's a real thing or not, again, take it from me and take it from all the experts. When we talk with people, and I'll get more into it later, it's really clear that it's real. Most people, in fact, everyone that I've talked to that presents with DID, they're not getting anything out of it. In fact, they're getting a lot of negative things out of it. Stigmatization, demoralization, just a lot of things that you wouldn't want. The idea that somehow faking that you had a mental disorder, somehow you have a net gain, that usually isn't the case.
I do find with past experience, a lot of these kids wanting these disorders, not fully understanding what actually comes with having these disorders, definitely glamorize stuff like DID, thinking that it's a cool, quirky thing to have because not many people have it. But I can talk on personal experience, especially with my Tourette's, when people glamorize it, or most of the time on TikTok, who may even do have Tourette's, but they play up massively on camera, like massively. I have had people come forward and say, no, I actually do have Tourette's, and fair enough. But the way that it's like perfectly twitching on beat with the music and they're properly overdoing it, again, you're trying to make it look glamorous and really cool. Again, Tourette's I wouldn't say is nowhere near as bad as DID personally, in my personal experience, but because I find with me, twitching my head every once in a while is definitely manageable compared to someone that has DID, where it sounds like an actual living nightmare to try and live with that on a day-to-day basis. Could you imagine? Even daily things like trying to drive and stuff, like that wouldn't be feasible. Doing certain activities wouldn't be feasible. It would be like a living hell, but apparently a lot of these kids think it's really cool and quirky, and you then get to pick cool characters, almost as if it's a cheap option for cosplaying. Like, you don't even have to buy the costume at that point, but you can just have DID, and then you can actually be that person.
The other thing to think about is, how do we know any of the disorders are real? And even taking it further, how do I know emotions are real? So, for example, when someone is sad and they tell me that they're sad, how do I know they're not faking that they are sad? I can't know. I just have to take their word for it. I might see certain markers, so certain things might cohere, they might be crying, they might typically not be lying to me, or there's not a lot of evidence of them lying to me. But I'll never know. There's no blood test for sadness. I don't know. I just have to take their word for it. The same with depression. If someone suffers from major depressive disorder, I have to take their word for it. Could they fake it? Absolutely, you could fake major depressive disorder, and some people do.
They definitely prey on a lot of these tests being very hard to actually conduct in the first place. Like he says, it's impossible to test if someone's actually faking. Even in the first place, you're really only just taking their word for these types of things, right? It's not like cancer where you could have an x-ray and you could see an actual physical lump, or if you were to take a blood test to see if you had a certain disease. It's not like that. You can't have a physical thing to actually determine whether or not they are faking or not. It's literally just word of mouth, and that's all it is at the end of the day. You really have to just take it for their word. But there are perks, as we've seen, from having these types of illnesses. For example, depression, you could easily get out of work and go on benefits. And for some people, that sounds very appealing. You just get to sit home all day and do that. But like I always say in every video, it then takes away from the people that actually have these mental conditions. Maybe there's only a certain amount of spots to do this. Also, it takes away the credibility of the illness in the first place. Hence, at the beginning of the video, a lot of people not even really believing now that DID is even a real thing. When yeah, of course it is. It definitely is. And no way have I ever said in any of my videos that it doesn't exist. It definitely does exist. I'm just saying, when you watch some of these videos on TikTok, they're very questionable in the beginning.
The same goes for dissociative identity disorder. There's no way to really know if someone has it. You can't take a blood test for it. There's no biological marker of it. But take it from me, the experts who actually will treat this, they absolutely believe that it is a real thing, as with all the other disorders in the DSM. And they also recognize that some people will fake it. And the experts that I know are pretty good at detecting when it is fake. There's usually ulterior motives that people will present, like they're trying to get out of a crime or something, and then we start actually trying to make sure that they're not lying about it. But it'd be very, very strange for a patient to come in. And the other thing I'll talk about is, when people present in our office who have dissociative identity disorder, they almost never present with DID. They almost never say, I have DID. Usually they present with depression, or their relationships are falling apart, or they're suicidal, or they're having lapses in memory and they can't figure out why. And then we start the interview and we start talking about it, and then we figure out, oh, there's these different alters. A lot of people come into treatment, they don't even know the other alters exist, or one of the alters that commonly will front the personality isn't fully conscious of the fact. They kind of know there's other alters, but they don't really know. And some people are very terrified of it.
That's very interesting in itself, for people just to go to the doctor's appointment with just symptoms and not necessarily say that they have DID in the first place. Like, I feel like that has to be one of the most telling signs, right? I'm just saying, if someone's going to the doctor's appointment and they're a little bit giddy and a little bit excited to get their diagnosis, and they tell you of all the exact right answers for what you're asking, it's probably, again, pretty telling that they want DID and they want the diagnosis, right? Again, a lot of these kids will literally spend hours out of their day dissecting every single small detail from these mental disorders to make sure when they actually go into their appointment, it's almost like taking a test at that point. They know exactly what to say. But that's the thing, right? When I went in with my head twitches when I was a kid, I didn't think that I had Tourette's. Also, TikTok wasn't a thing when I was a kid, and I didn't want that. Like, I didn't want something like that. Like, again, there was nothing positive back then, especially because the only thing that would happen is if you got Tourette's, well, maybe you could go on medication. But again, I've seen some of the medication that you have to take for Tourette's, and the side effects are just, no, I'm good. Honestly, like severe depression, never feeling happy, and always feeling on a sort of flat line. And that's not something that I really want to deal with. I'd rather have head tics than something like that, because to me, that sounds so much more serious from what I actually go through in the beginning. But I didn't go into the doctor's appointment at the age of like 6, 7, fingers crossed. Hopefully I got Tourette's. And then my family, we all just went out for ice cream afterwards to celebrate my Tourette's. Man, that was the best day of my life. That was so happy. No, I feel like afterwards it kind of sucks because then, you know, I mean, I might have only been 6 or 7, but as you got older, you really realized, oh shit, like this is probably going to stick with me for my whole entire life now. They do say that you'll probably grow out of it, and I know that's what he said to me, but I mean, I'm in my 20s now, and yeah, it's definitely not growing out of it, unfortunately. Also, for excuses for things, right? Like, again, everyone wants to be suppressed nowadays, but I feel like people like using that as a proper excuse, maybe because they're not doing so well in life, and they want something to fall back onto. There's a lot of finger pointing nowadays when anyone doesn't really achieve the things that they want to achieve, or set out goals, and they don't hit those goals. And yeah, you know what, that's fair enough. It's hard to admit and look back in the mirror and say, I didn't achieve the goal I wanted to achieve this year because of me. I should have done better. That's very mature, and that's very hard to do for a lot of people, and I'm not having a go at them. But then at the same breath, to then say you have DID or something like that, to try and finger point and blame something else for not achieving those goals, is just a terrible path to go down. Even in other instances, a different topic I wanted to cover at some point, murderers, when they're waiting trial and they're in the police station waiting to be interrogated as well, will have signs of DID and certain mental health disorders, but as soon as the officers leave, they don't even realize they're being recorded, and then they act completely fine. I mean, there was one famous kid who was literally looking down at the floor, acting all strange, and as soon as they walked out, he just sat back on his chair like this and acted completely normal, which, like, yeah, of course it makes sense again for people wanting to get out of crimes, but you don't actually get out of those crimes. In fact, you go to like a mental asylum basically, and that is probably worse than a prison, if I'm going to be honest with you guys.
So the other thing that you talked about in your email is that it was, you know, there's a history in our profession of occasionally we will induce things in our patients, meaning that we will influence them, brainwash them in a sense, to believe certain things, like they were sexually abused. There's a lot of famous cases in the past. And that happens sometimes. And psychologists, clinicians can also induce dissociative identity disorder in a client. They wouldn't actually the patient wouldn't actually possess DID, but they would act like they did have it, and then the client and therapist would just brainwash themselves into believing that it's there.
I know around about now, a lot of people are probably very confused on why that even happens in the first place. Like, what a horrible and terrible thing for psychiatrists to do. That makes no sense. Unfortunately, it does. You know, if you have a new patient and you want to keep them on as a patient and you see that they're very vulnerable, what better way to then entice them and to push them over the edge and claim that they do have DID? So again, when you look at some of these TikTok kids, they might even actually have a diagnosis. But again, it's their psychiatrist putting it onto them, wanting them to think that they actually have it so they can make money off of them. They don't make money to cure you. Let's let that sink in. A lot of them are very good people that actually want to help, and once the job is done, they probably feel a great deal of satisfaction, which is perfect. That's the way it should be. But you're gonna also get some scummy people who see you as just money coming in every month, and they don't want you to leave. And I'm not saying or accusing anyone that I've ever seen do that, but I'm just saying that does happen. That is a very real thing. And again, the satanic panic talks a little bit on that. And again, it's very interesting.
And that happens, but a lot of other disorders are also induced. So just because DID has been induced, just because DID has been faked, doesn't mean they all are fake or they all are induced. And frankly, when lay people claim that it's always fake, they are harming people with actual disorders here. To say that it's all fake, it's all a conspiracy, it's all just trying to get attention, there's enough stigma out there already. We don't need to add to it. Now, can it be faked? Is it faked? Yes. But is it all fake? No. Now, it might be good if I talk about dissociation in general for a second. When we are young, when we're children, 0 to 6 or something, we have an innate mechanism available to us, apparently, to help us cope with trauma and with fear. So when you expose a 0 to 5-year-old child to chronic and intense fear through abuse or chaos or war or something, and the child is experiencing this chronic terror, sometimes at the hands of their parents, then there's this mechanism available called dissociation, and there are various different forms of it. Some of it you kind of check out and become hazy and almost in a trance. Other times you depersonalize, and other times you develop dissociative identity disorder. All these are dissociative mechanisms that are actually useful to humans when they're very young so that they can cope with trauma that is happening. The idea goes with dissociative identity disorder is that certain alters will be protected. So like a child self will be protected. So say you're 5 years old, you're going through trauma. A child self will be pushed to the side when the trauma is happening, and another alter will step forward and take the brunt of it.
I feel like from time to time to sit down and watch these types of videos with you is actually very interesting, because I know there are people that watch this type of content that probably don't believe in any of it whatsoever. And again, we don't fully blame you for that, because again, some of the stuff that we see on TikTok on a day-to-day basis definitely has to put you off trying to believe a lot of the stuff. But I want to put these types of videos on my channel to really try and balance that out, and you guys can hear from a professional that no, a matter of fact, it is very real. And again, thank you to all the people in the comments that leave big comments down below in the comment section, enlightening people and telling people your experiences, and you're informing people. And I think that's very brave, first of all, to put it on an actual YouTube channel. Not something that I would have even done with my Tourette's, not until very recently. So I know that takes a lot of courage, so I do want to say thank you for that. But again, it's nice to come in the middle and watch these types of videos from time to time so we can all learn together. I'm not going to watch the entirety of the video. I feel like that would be a little bit scummy if I was to just sit here like one of those terrible reaction channels. I just watched the whole video, so you don't ever need to watch his video. I will leave a link down in the description so you can go over to his channel and check it out for yourself if you guys are interested. Or if you're interested in these types of videos, please come on to my channel and check out some of the other videos that I make. I know this one's a bit more serious than the other ones that I tend to make, and you guys might actually enjoy those ones a bit more. But anyway, boys and girls, I hope you're all having a great day, and I'll see you all in tomorrow's video. Bye-bye.